education. For more details, contact. Wondering how to include Islam in your child's everyday life? Children absorb incredible amounts of information from schools and teachers that usually sticks with them forever. So how about fusing Islamic teachings with worldly education to give your child a head start in this life and the hereafter? By reminding them about Islam through subjects like science, math, and geography. Sounds interesting? Lesson Plan Islamization will nurture your child by helping him or her to grasp mainstream concepts that are based on an Islamic foundation, helping them achieve success in this world and
نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Our brother, mentor, visitor, Dr. Bilal Phillips, member, Al-Amana Advisory Management Board, Dr. Nafisatu Muhammad, member, Board of Trustees, Al-Amana Foundation, Hadiza Aliku Muhammad, heads of school here present, teachers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And with all due respect, members of the Light of the Ummah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Let me straight away say that we're very pleased, Doctor, to have you here today as our facilitator. We consider it as a last favor, really, to have you come here in person and to deliver this training to us. I pray that whatever we learn here today is going to be beneficial to all of us, and Allah will enable us to apply it in our respective schools, inshallah, and also teach it to others, inshallah. We're all familiar with the workshop rules, please. So let me first of all say, let's switch off our phones or put it on silent, please, so that we do not disturb each other. If you need to ask questions, I think Doctor will tell you what you need to do. We have 2 days, today and tomorrow, inshallah, starting at 10. Please, let's try and ensure that we're here on time so that we achieve what we have come to achieve. We have break from 1 to 2, I believe, and then I think we may carry on up to 4, depending on how the procedure continues. What else? Anyway, as we go along, we'll just say what needs to be said. So without further ado, I'll hand over the mic to Dr. Bilal Phillips. Thank you.
والصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن استنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين. The workshop which you have been invited to is, as shown on the screen, Islamization of education. And you have all been invited because of the fact that your schools are engaged in one level or another in trying to achieve this goal. You are from Islamic schools, Islamic international schools. So it is understood then that the goal of the school is Islamized education, and that's what we're going to be looking at over these next 2 days. Each workshop or each session will be focused on one or another aspect of Islamization of education. The workshop has as its main 4 goals to give you, as participants, a clear understanding of what the Islamic approach to knowledge is, because that's where we have to start, to make sure that we're all on the same page with regards to what constitutes the Islamic approach to knowledge. We all have a general idea because we talk about the Islamic subjects and the secular subjects. So we have some idea that there is another approach, which you could say is the secular approach, and there is the Islamic approach. But we should be clear on what these distinctions mean from an Islamic perspective. Also, among the goals or objectives is to clarify the need for the Islamization of education. In the real sense, not merely putting a name on our school, which is an Arabic name, which gives it an Islamic favor, because it's known in the Muslim community. It's Al-Hikmah or Al-Qalam or some phrase where people may feel that that's enough. Thirdly, to identify, after understanding the need and the Islamic approach, the actual practical route to achieve this Islamization of education. And fourthly, to train you as participants practically. This is why you were asked to bring your lesson plans, bring some lesson plans, so we can not just talk about this on a theoretical level, but practically together Islamize some of these lesson plans. Because that is where as they say, the rubber hits the road. This is the basis. If we're able to achieve that, then the process is solidly in place. Now, the first thing that we have to consider before looking at the details of this Islamization process is the institution itself, our Islamic school. If we fail here in understanding what an Islamic school is, everything else is basically an extension of that failure. We will not achieve the goals. So the Islamic school has to be established with the right intention by the proprietors, the founders. Those who establish the school have to be clear in terms of why they're establishing the school. They should understand that the process of establishing the school and running the school is a form of ibadah. That's how they should look at it. It is primarily ibadah and not tijara or ada, just customary dealings. It is a form of worship. Because if we don't look at it as worship or business for the sake of Allah, then the goals of the Islamic institution cannot be achieved. And what we end up doing is just exploiting the spiritual needs of the Ummah. The Ummah needs Islamic schools. And in the name of this need, the Islamic school, we as business people make our profits. This is a good business investment, a good place to put my money, to multiply it, increase it, so let me do it. Because if that is the motive, if the motive is purely business, lip service is given only to the Islamic element, then the consequence is that there will be compromises in the whole process, because profit is the main motive. That is the driving force. Financial success, this is what it's all about. So it means that when your primary concern is financial success, it means you will be prepared to compromise whatever is necessary to ensure your financial success. So it means that you will make a substandard building in many cases. That's why Islamic schools are generally known around the world, as being substandard. That's how they are looked at generally. When we ask, why don't you put your kids in Islamic schools? Oh, these schools are inferior. Just the physical structure itself, you come in, it's substandard. It's not a place where we would like our children educated. And substandard also means overcrowded classrooms, because you're trying to get profit, so you pack the kids in the classroom. Even though educators say, 25, that's it. You don't need to have more than 25 kids in a classroom. But you will pack them in 30, 40, 50, 60. I've been to schools where there's 70, 80, yes, 90. They're packing them in. And why? Profits. It's simply a matter of profits. And of course, the teacher, who is the biggest expense after the school building, the next big expense is the teachers. So if you get qualified teachers, properly qualified teachers, it's going to cost. So what do? You're trying to, maximize your profits. Therefore, you get unqualified teachers. Sister so-and-so, brother so-and-so, they're good Muslims. Can you come and teach for us? Okay? Put them in the classroom, and they do what they do. They're not going to give the children what they deserve. The administration of the school, the proprietors, etc., they are cheating the people. It's deception. You've called it an Islamic school, but you have given them a substandard school. It is only Islamic in name. Of course, sustainability is real. We don't want to run a school at a loss, financial loss, because we can't keep it going. So we have good intentions. We should also make that institution viable so that it can continue. Continuity is important. The Prophet ﷺ had said that, Allah loves from us that deed which is a continuous deed, done regularly, continually, even if it is small. So these are the primary concerns. If we fail here, the rest is just individual effort. You know, maybe you are in a school like that. What do? You say to me, what do I do now? That you've described exactly what my school is. So what do I do as a concerned Muslim teacher? Well, you do what you can. You do what you can. It's not to say you can't do anything, but the effectiveness, your effectiveness, is going to be determined by the school's ethos, how it was founded, what the goals were. All of that's going to affect. And what I would say is, in the back of your mind, you should be looking for that proper school with the proper intention. And if you're able to get into such a school, this is where you will be the most effective. The school whose founding fathers or mothers founded it for the sake of Allah. Primarily. While trying to ensure that it is viable and sustainable. And if they earn profits, it's halal profits, because they have given the community their right to a decent building, proper student-teacher ratio, qualified teachers. When that is in place, then we can truly worship Allah, because we have fulfilled the community's right on us. It is our right as proprietors to give them at least that. That's the starting point. So the basic philosophy of the Islamic school is that the Muslim school is distinctly different from a business venture which happens to be called a Muslim school. It could have been called many other things. But because financially this is where the opportunity lies, we call it a Muslim school. The Muslim school, we said, is distinctly different from the business venture at the point of, or based on the concept of what is the distinguishing factor? What is the furqan here?
Intention.
Intention, yes. Intention for?
Set of school in the first place.
We're saying it's for the sake of Allah. It's ibadah. It is ibadah. This is the distinguishing point. Ibadah as opposed to tijara. These are the two concepts. Also, the Muslim teacher, as we will be going and looking at in more detail, should be different from the teacher who happens to be a Muslim. That teacher who happens to be a Muslim could have been an atheist, could have been a Christian, could have been a Buddhist, could have been anything. In other words, religion has no place in their profession. They're just teachers. Teachers meaning, if you're just teachers, meaning you're teaching mainly, for most people, I'm not saying it's everybody, but for most people, it's just the money. Why we have so much difficulty finding teachers in many of our countries, third world countries, because people look at it as the poorest paid profession. So everybody will be trying to be a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer or anything else, not teacher. If you fail to get into all of that, okay, be a teacher. So the motivation, it's a last choice. That's the only thing left for you, to be a teacher. But it's not surprising. They're not motivated. They will not be innovative. They just want to get their job done. They're counting the time on the clock. If the class is finished and a teacher and a child wants to ask something more, class is over tomorrow. My time's up, finish. That's the kind of approach, feeling, How do we really impart Islamized knowledge with that? School had to be from Ibadah, then the teacher has to be from an Ibadah perspective. He or she is a teacher. They have chosen that profession because it is the most honorable profession. In the sight of Allah, it is the most honorable profession. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as a messenger of Allah, was the ultimate teacher. That was him. And that is what's driving us. Those addicted to the things of this world, the material things of this world, they are cursed. Illa dhikrullah. That is what is not cursed in this world. You can't be too addicted to dhikrullah. There's no overdose for dhikrullah. Yeah, there's overdose for all the other things, but not dhikrullah. Wa ma wala, and whatever helps us to remember Allah. Wa aliman wa muta'allima. And the teacher, that knowledgeable teacher, and the student. That is the blessed relationship in this world. That whatever we do, we should strive to be one or the other or both. Both is best. That not only do we teach, we learn. We don't feel now we're the teacher, don't need to learn anymore. See, because when we look at it as the profession, you did your training, enough, finish. You're not concerned about the latest developments in education. No. I've been teaching for the last 20 years, I know what I'm doing. I don't need to get any more knowledge here. No, the good teacher is one who is always learning. Because there's always something to learn. Wa muta'allima, the student, that likewise as the teacher should be focused on ibadah, the student should be focused on ibadah. And that's a whole topic in and of itself. And as a product of this institution, the Islamic school, the product should be a student who is Muslim first. That's what we want to come out of the school. A child, a young person who is Muslim first. They are conscious of their Islam. That takes precedence over everything else. Because if they don't have that perspective, the end result is they will be a student like all other students in the world. And the most common characteristic of students found in all corners of the world, the most common characteristic is that they cheat. Students, in general, are cheaters. Everywhere you go. I've checked it personally. I've been to schools from Guyana, South America, Muslim schools, to Mindanao, Philippines, and everywhere in between. Here in Nigeria, I visited schools in Abuja, in Lagos, etc. Muslim schools. And invariably, when I ask the students of final year, graduating students before graduation, and even when I go to Muslim universities, students have graduated from high school, gone to Muslim universities, and I ask them, who among you can put up his hand or her hand and say, Wallahi, I have never cheated on any test or examination? Invariably, no hands go up. Occasionally, I see 1, 2, 3, 4 hands. Out of 400, 500, 1,500 students, 5 hands went up. So what does that mean? I won't ask you all now. I don't want to embarrass you, right? But you know what I'm talking about. I don't want to embarrass you now. So, fact of the matter is that this is endemic. This is a sickness in our institutions. And it comes as a result of the secularized approach to education, where morality has been taken out of education. And you're just learning facts so you can get degrees, so you can get jobs and make with the money. Because that will get you a happy life. You've got the money, you've got a happy life. Nice house, nice car, family, everything's good. So we want to produce students who are morally upright. And until we produce them, we have not achieved the goal of the Islamic school. We need to produce citizens who cannot be corrupted, uncorruptible. If you suggest to them a bribe, they will reject it. You could say they are brainwashed to morality. If we move on to the educational process, it consists of 3 E's: the educator, the education, and the educated, the students. From the perspective of the teacher, the educator, we said that he or she should have particular characteristics. These characteristics actually are the characteristics of a true Muslim. That's what makes them Muslim educators, Muslim first. That consists of having knowledge, proper knowledge, because without that proper knowledge, how are you going to educate people? If you are hired because you are a good Muslim brother or a good Muslim sister, but you are not trained, you don't have the knowledge for education. Well, the school has brought you in. You said, well, they hired me. So, what's my sin? I'm not sin for having taken the job that was offered to me. I tried to do my best. But that's not enough. That's not good enough. As in the deen, you cannot be a proper Muslim without proper knowledge. If you've got misinformation, you may end up worshipping Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We have Muslims in different parts of the world who worship Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They call on him in prayer. But they're Muslims. They don't have the correct knowledge. They don't read the Quran. Or if they read it, they've learned the Arabic, they read the Arabic text, they don't understand what the Arabic means. So, knowledge is primary. If we don't know who Allah is, then we can end up like a billion people in India worshipping a cow, believing that Allah is a cow. So, we have to have correct knowledge for ourselves to be proper Muslims and to be able to educate others. Also, we should have Iman, because it is the foundation of our religion. As a Muslim educator, without Iman, we are only Muslim by custom and tradition. We dress the way Muslim people typically dress. We talk and use the words that Muslim people use. But without Iman, we are a shell. So, of course, Iman is built through establishing Salah, proper fasting, Zakah, Hajj, all the basic principles of the faith. Sincerity, ikhlas, is essential. Where there is Iman, sincerity follows. Sincerity, which is useful in the Islamic educational process. Because one may not have correct faith and still be sincere in terms of their job. You know, I've been given a duty, a responsibility, I will do it to the best of my ability. But one cannot impart faith with that. That can build diligence, hard work, but you can't impart faith. And this is part of the Islamic educational process, is imparting of faith. We're passing that on to the children, young people. And of course, righteous deeds, and amal as-salih, in that the correct approach of the Muslim educator, believing that what he or she is doing is ibadah, then whatever they do, they try to do it in a way which is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If they achieve that, then the whole profession that they engage in becomes ibadah. It becomes worship of Allah added to their scale of good deeds on the day of judgment. We look at the concept of knowledge. We have to be able to distinguish between, as teachers, true and false knowledge, useful and useless knowledge. Because though all knowledge ultimately comes from Allah, the knowledge which we as teachers should be imparting should be true knowledge. And we will look at that in more detail later. Also, the knowledge should be prioritized. Fard Ain knowledge should be given precedence over Fard Kifaya knowledge. That is individual obligatory knowledge, Fard Ain. You, as an individual, need to know about Salah. That's Fard Ain. Because you are obliged to pray 5 times a day. So you should have correct knowledge of Salah. Al-Irth. You as an individual are not required to know what portion you should get or your children should get if you die or if your parents die. No. Somebody in the community should have that knowledge. So this is what we call community obligatory knowledge, Fard Kifaya. As long as somebody in the community has that knowledge, then the community is absolved from that responsibility. So we should be careful, we should be conscious of what we need to know. You as a teacher need to know classroom management. Not that you are managing the class the way your class was managed when you were a kid. Your teacher managed your class with a big stick, hitting all the kids who were out of line. So you manage your class that way. This is not classroom management. It may have become a standard in some circles, especially in Quranic schools and teaching the Quran with a stick. This is not the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He didn't teach the Sahaba the Quran with a stick. This teaching with a stick is something which came up centuries later. It worked its way into our Islamic educational process and it's become a standard now, today. If you take your child to Quran school and you tell them, listen, I don't want you to hit my kids. If they do anything wrong, you tell me, I'll hit them, if necessary. They will tell you flatly, you cannot teach the child the Quran without a stick. So, as a teacher in an Islamic institution, you need to know classroom management. How to manage your class without the stick. How to control the children to make them love the educational process rather than hate it. How many of us look back to our days in the madrasa with tears? How many of us look back at them as the good old days and we think, oh, I'd love to be back there again? Not too many of us. Very few. And that shouldn't be. Why should it be like that? Why should Quran, Arabic be the most hated subjects in our schools? The kids will love English, love maths, and they will hate Quran and Arabic. Why? What message are we sending them? So this is Fard Ain knowledge on the teacher, that they are trained in classroom management. They are trained in child psychology. They know how to modify behavior of children without violence, abuse, force. In the West, in the educational training institutions, they tell the teachers this motto: make learning fun. That's the message. Make learning fun. And the kids love it. They will look back at those days and remember those days with fond memories. We have to bring that back, because that is the Islamic way. And then the effective knowledge transfer, again, this goes back to the issue of being properly trained in your subject, along with the knowledge of teaching, so that you are able to convey the correct knowledge to the students, that they will learn properly. The other characteristic we spoke about, Iman, of course, this is knowledge of the pillars of Iman that the Prophet ﷺ has taught us, and that directs our behavior. If the teacher in our school is a Christian teacher, or a Buddhist teacher, or a Hindu teacher, they may comply generally with the teaching rules, etc., but their faith will also come out in some of their teachings. And this is why in a Muslim or Islamic institution, the vast majority of the teachers should be Muslims. It's not to say you cannot have a non-Muslim teacher, I'm not saying that, but they should not represent the majority. Places I've been to, Muslim teachers are few because they say, we can't find Muslim teachers. Muslims don't want to go into the teaching profession. It doesn't pay. So this is a problem. This is a crisis that the Muslim community is faced with in different parts of the world. I haven't discussed it here in Nigeria to see what the issues are, but I know in general across the world that I've been to, this has been a complaint. And in some schools I've visited here in Nigeria, I've heard that complaint. I don't know the case for Kaduna, but I've heard that complaint. We can't find trained, qualified Muslim teachers for our schools. So we do need to develop systems by which we can produce these qualified teachers who share the common faith to play the correct role in our institutions. Is it time? Patience is a product of Iman. It is Iman which gives us the necessary qualities to maintain patience in that educational process. And patience in education becomes very, very critical. If you don't have patience with the children, if you lose your temper very easily, you can't impart the information to the students. You told them one time, somebody asks again, somebody asks again, you get upset. You don't have time to repeat yourself. How many times should I repeat myself? This is your, response. You're not thinking, well, maybe I didn't say it right, or I didn't explain it correctly. You know, maybe I need to find another approach. You know, that's what patience causes you to do. Without patience, you just feel that the fault is in the student. You know, you are dumb, and you may even tell them that. You know, things like this. And the chances of abuse in the classroom will be increased where there is no Iman. Because a person doesn't feel Allah is watching them, that they are accountable, even though the school administration can't see what they're doing. Then don't be surprised if they abuse the children in the classroom. As we said, ikhlas, or sincerity, this is one of the basic characteristics that the Muslim teacher should have. That their intention is right, because we know, as the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالِ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Deeds are judged by their intentions. So, the concern for the community, for the service that we're providing to the community, that should be the greatest concern. And with that comes the consciousness of teaching being ibadah, as I described before, and not just a tradition, a custom, ada. And the teaching will be where sincerity is at its foundation. It will be grasped by the students. They will know the difference between the teacher who is teaching out of love for that profession, out of love because they know that this is what is pleasing to Allah, and the teacher who's just doing a job. They have to teach. That teacher will not be remembered. When you think back, who was the teacher who you remember from grade 3 or grade 6? You remember, all years have passed, but you can still remember that teacher because there was that sincerity in their teaching. You could feel it. This is a teacher who loved their students, who tried to do everything they could for the students. And this is what we need if we are to be, in fact, successful teachers. Righteous deeds, amal salih, we spoke about. This is the foundation of the righteous deed, of course, is that it be in accordance with the Quran and the Sunnah. So, whatever we are teaching, however we are teaching, it should be in accordance with the Quran and the Sunnah. And that goes back again to knowledge that we spoke about in the very beginning. Because if you don't have the knowledge, how are you going to know whether something is in accordance with the Quran and the Sunnah? You won't know. And for the righteous deed to be a truly righteous deed, it should be done with sincerity, ikhlas, that we spoke about previously. And as a righteous deed, we should know that it will impact on others if we are an example ourselves of it. If we teach the children to be truthful, but we ourselves are not, the students will learn from us in what we say, not from what we do. They will learn from what we do and not from what we say. We tell them be truthful, and our own way of dealing with them is unfair, unjust, unkind, they will learn from us. If we tell them, don't lie, but somebody comes and says, the principal wants to see you, you send them back and say, tell them I'm busy. You're not busy, you're just eating your lunch in the classroom. The students, you told them to be truthful, but here you are telling them now to go tell a lie. So what are they going to learn? Your words about being truthful or your actions about lying? That's the way children are. Teachers speak louder than words. And amongst the qualities of the educator is, from another perspective, that sense of responsibility, purpose, and goal, that the teacher is on a mission. They're clear about their mission. They are merciful to the children because that's what the Quran and the Sunnah teaches. As the Prophet ﷺ had said, he is not of us who does not respect our elders nor show mercy to our little ones. But we're merciful to the children who are put under our care. We treat them in a merciful manner, a loving manner. And we are just and fair. We don't have favorites in the classroom, obvious to the class. You can't help having a favorite. It's human nature to have a favorite. You have brothers, there will be one among them that is your favorite. You have sisters, there will be one who will be your favorite. This is just our nature, but we don't show it to the others. That's everything. Every opportunity, they're given the prizes. They're the ones who, are given the opportunity to speak all the time. The others are not, and so on and so. This is injustice. The teacher has to be just. And the students are looking at him or her carefully. They're watching. You might think nobody knows, but reality is they're spotting you. They know. They're aware. And you've put something in their heart, something negative. There should also be care and concern on the part of the educator for the students. Many times you go into a classroom, you will find teachers, though they've been teaching the students for 6 months, whatever, they don't even know the names of the students. You over there, come here. They don't know the name. They don't remember the name of the student. So you have to have that photographic memory. You just look over, the first time you meet them in the class, you remember everybody's name. No, it's not the way we are. So you take the time to learn their names. Because when you are called by hey you, and you're called by your own name, two different impacts.
Yes.
And even if you are really into your teaching, you know the family members of your students. Of course, if you're given a class of 80 students, I have to say, you're excused. You shouldn't be given a class of 80 students. 25, yeah, you can learn the names of the kids and their parents. 80 students, now you have to be Bukhari, to be able to recall all of the names of the narrators, right? So this is a part of building a proper relationship with your students, and they will learn from you when they feel that love from you. You know their name, you even know their parents' name. And you are prepared to call up the parents if they're having problems. You just say, well, okay, I'll just ignore that one and move on to the others. No. You are concerned. You want them to improve. And preparedness, effective teaching requires proper preparation. As they say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So, some people say, well, lesson plans, that's for the beginners. I've been teaching this class for the last 15 years. I don't need to plan. It's all in my head. I do it, without even thinking. But what does that mean? It means you are an automatic pilot. That's what it means. What you taught this year is exactly what you taught last year, and the year before, and the year before that. So it means that it's just a routine. You feel there's no more you can do. You can't improve. There's no innovation, no development, no nothing. You're just at a standstill. That's not a good teacher. That's not a good teacher. Lesson plans help us to improve. We look at what we did last year. We look to see what else can I do? How else can I make this more effective? So on, so you try to improve what you've done. And of course, as we said, that quality of being the example remains critical, especially in the early stages, because the teacher becomes almost like God to the students, the little kids. The parents will tell them so and so, they say, no, but teacher said. So what? I'm telling you, but the teacher said. They spend more time with the students than you as a parent. So they, are focused on the teacher. Whatever the teacher says, whatever the teacher does, this becomes their guide. So this becomes critical for us to be that best example for them. That whatever is wrong in the family, that they in some point in the future would correct it. That they would be bringing change to the home. Okay, that concludes basically the first session, where we have focused on the institution. That was number one. And the issues of how the institution came about. Those of you that may be planning to set up an institution, these are the kinds of thoughts that should cross your mind. What are your goals? What is your intent? Then we looked at the general components of the educational process, and that consisted of the educator, the educational material itself, and the educated, or the children. What we've looked at in this session is the educator. We've gone through. Inshallah, in the coming session, we'll look at the educational material itself. So, I don't know how much time has passed here now.
11:40.
Yeah, we're at 11:40 now, but Salah is at what time?
At 1.
Huh?
1.
At 1? Okay, so we can take some questions on what we have covered so far before taking a break. We have 10-15 minutes. We could take a few questions from the males and the females who would like to ask. Iman? Please just take her name down. What is your name, please? Spell your first.
ALAWIYA.
Okay.
Yes, my question is, as school owners, what can we do to see that our teachers get these qualities? There are certain qualities that I believe are, I think, can we say natural, and there are certain that need to be taught, so how do we go about that, since we already have a school and you have staff, and my greatest challenge is maintaining this